correctly with the correct amount.
D20 Radio, where gamers roll.
www.d20radio.com.
Welcome to Me and Steve Talk RPGs, a podcast where me and my friend Steve try and help you get the most out of your role-playing game experience.
Welcome back to Me and Steve Talk RPGs. I'm here with my friend Steve.
Who the hell are you?
I know, right? We're going to talk some RPGs today, but before we get into that, we're going to talk about the Court Games podcast family.
Yes, Court Games. Basically, it's they had at least at one point 3 podcasts they did. There was one that's actually called Court Games. There was one called Crimson Gold Agonies, and there was one called, I'm drawing a blank on the third one at the moment. Fortune and Strife. There we go.
I was right on that.
But all 3 of them revolve around Legend of the Five Rings.
Right. Which is really freaking cool.
Yeah, it is. The latter 2, Crimson Gold Agonies and Fortune and Strife, were both actual play podcasts. One of which was much more audio drama. The other was, they left a lot of the table talk in, and much more of a, if you will, traditional actual play as opposed to RPG-based audio drama. The Court Games podcast itself is more talk about the game, the world. I believe even some with like the card game and all that. So if you're into Legend of the Five Rings and possibly even, I know Edge put out the 5e Adventures in Rokugan, which is set in that world. I'm sure there's stuff you could mine for that if that's your jam, or if you just want to learn more about L5R. I mean, be a good place to go.
Yeah,
and I know we
definitely
had one of the hosts on way back.
Way back.
Yeah, like that might be in, I don't think it was single-digit episodes.
Double digits at that point?
Like pre-50, and by my count, this is 181.
Yeah. That's scary, isn't it?
Yeah, right? And that doesn't count all the actual play episodes.
Right?
So, how you been? I actually got to see you in person for the first time in like 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years, right?
PGX.
So PGX was a blast. I know we didn't get to talk about it. It was a fantastic time. I got to play a lot of great games at PGX, which was my goal. My goal was, I tend to get wrapped up in cons, and I get wrapped up into running things. And come PGX, I was like, no, I don't want to run anything. I want to play games this time around. And so I got to play Slay Industries with you. We got to play Vast Grim, which was awesome, with Brian, the creator of Vast Grim. And then I got to play Dread, and I hope to have that guy on at some point because he wrote the module that we played, and it was really neat. Really interesting take on what that system can do and what that game can become. Other than that, I played some pretty cool video games, wandered around their arcade area, wandered around their vendor area, absolutely astonished by some of the 3D printed figures that are out there. Talked to some really cool creators. We talked to the people from Tiny D6. We talked to what was that?
Easy D6.
Easy D6. I'm sorry. We talked to the Neon Lords of the What is that game actually called?
Neon Lords of the Toxic Wasteland.
Thank you.
Yeah, Brian. His name's also Brian, and he's good friends with Brian from Vast Grim.
Right. Get to talk to him a little bit, and
we'll try and get him on at some point soon too.
Yeah, he'll be.
Season is wrapping up, so
yeah, interesting conversations to be had for sure. That's a cool game, and you've talked about a little bit in the past that's a cool game that if you know what you're in for, you can just go all in on it. Because it's a Saturday morning cartoon. I managed to keep myself restrained. I only bought 2 games technically.
I did the same, actually.
Yeah, Librarian NPC, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I purchased, I can't remember. I have them in my bag. I can't remember the games, but I purchased 2 games off of them. And yeah, very cool stuff. Very cool stuff. PGX was a blast.
Mm-hmm.
Was a blast. But that was all the way back in the beginning of October.
Well,
And then
I
after PGX, go ahead, sir.
Sunday when you couldn't make it, I ended up getting into a game of Mothership,
Oh, very cool.
run
Very
by
cool.
actually. Are you familiar with the YouTube channel Dungeon Masterpiece?
Yeah. Yeah,
He
Dungeon
ran that.
Masterpiece ran that. Ooh, that's
Yeah,
sick.
it
I
was fun.
That Sunday, I had little backstory. Um, PGX. So where I live currently is about an hour and a half from PGX, and that's a little bit of a drive. And so I usually stay at my grandparents' just because it's only 30-ish minutes from New Stanton to Monroeville. And my grandma had asked if I wanted to go for breakfast that morning. And I said, absolutely. So we went for breakfast Sunday morning. Till we got out of breakfast Sunday morning, it was already pushing noon. And I was like, I'm not driving to the con to be there for 2 hours.
Fair.
And so that's why I was like, I'm not coming back.
Nah. Hey, I mean, you know what? Family's family. I mean,
Exactly. And
Friday and Saturday were really good.
yeah, Friday and Saturday were great. I had an absolute blast. Like I said, I had a really good time just wandering around, talking to different people, seeing all the cool games happening.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of cool games happening. I love that con is as big as it is now. Because
Mm-hmm.
considering when we first went, how like that con was small but very much growing, and I'm glad to see that con has grown into its self nicely.
Yeah, but it still has the same like feel. It's like you
Yeah,
walk
it's
around a corner and it's like, hey, I know you, and you end up in a conversation with someone that you know.
yeah, it does have that. It does have that same, small con feel, which is cool. I'm
Mm.
excited. Speaking of conventions, Gamer Nation Con is going to be coming up here. Before you know it.
Yeah, don't remind me.
I know.
I mean, do, but you know what I'm saying. I haven't
I,
heard anything official on that front, but
I mean, I imagine there's information coming.
yeah, usually.
I am tentatively trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I've got to
If
see
if
it.
flights remain as expensive as they are and hotels remain as expensive as they are, it's probably a no from me, unfortunately. I would love to be there, but I just financially
Yeah,
don't know that I can swing that.
yeah, I've got to see how that all shakes out because you know, going halfway across the country is not
Not
something to be
cheap.
taken lightly.
No, it's not cheap. Um, I wish it was cheap. I wish there was a way. I keep looking at RVs on Facebook and just thinking about because I'm like, well, I could spend $3,500 and buy this RV, and we could just make sure it runs and drives and is in good running order, and just take it to Texas.
But in good running order and willing to take on an 18-hour road trip are not necessarily the same thing.
Well, no, but there are certain ones that I feel pretty comfortable that I could hop in and drive it tomorrow.
Fair.
I, I I'm a sucker for those old little pickup truck RVs. So the little Toyota RVs, you know which ones I'm talking about?
Kind of.
So it's basically a Toyota pickup truck, except they replace the truck bed with a camper.
It's not one of the set-in camper shells.
No, no, it's not a drop-in camper shell. It's an actual like conversion.
Mm.
And I've been looking at a couple of those, or a straight up conversion van, because I'm a sucker for a van, and I think that would be a pretty good ride.
I took my driver's test in a full-size van.
Right? Right? Um, get ready for this, folks, because we haven't seen each other, got a chance to talk to each other since PGX, so this is pretty much going to be the episode.
Well, you did
Um,
have a topic in mind.
well, yeah, I did. I wanted to talk a little bit around what to do when your game falls apart. um,
Real quick answer. Find another one. Not being a
y-
smartass, obviously,
I
but
know, I know.
not really.
Um,
Well,
s-
yeah, anyway.
Yeah, so a little bit of backstory. I was excited to get a Pathfinder game with my previous 5th edition players off the ground. Due to timing and a lot of various pitfalls, that game never managed to get its feet off the ground, and 2 of the players have just effectively had to step away, um, and which has left me with 2 players who are very willing to play, but I don't know if you've ever tried to play Dungeons and Dragons with 2 players. It's not fun.
It can be, but
It could
but
be.
you have to have the right. It's not intended as a two-player game. Let's put it that
No,
way.
no, it's not. You really have to have the right group of players, and there's a lot of accommodations you have to do. Um, it's honestly better if I could just find 2 more people to play. I would be in
Mhm.
way better shape. So that's sort of led me to uh, I want to open a discussion in our Discord, and I want to open a little bit of conversation around it because it's 2024 and I don't know how to find in-person players anymore. I know where I can go to find an online game easily, right? Like I know that at any point I could throw up in our Discord and be like, Thursdays from 6 to 10, we're going to be playing X game, and I could find 5 players, like
Mhm.
without batting an eye. But I've reached this point where I'm like, okay, I have an in-person game, and I don't know where to go for players anymore because I used to be able to go to the game shop and talk to people, be like, hey, do you want to play this game? And I don't know. I don't know if I need to go back because Facebook's kind of dead. So I don't know if I need to go back to like when me and you were playing D&D back in the day, where there was a Facebook group made and it was made public and people could ask to join it. And, you know, that was sort of a way to find players.
So
Um,
I will say, every in-person game I've been in this century, aside from con games, but every in-person campaign that I've been in, with the exception of one, well, we'll call it one, even though it was ended up only being a one shot. Uh, the group started via online communication.
okay.
The group I played 3-5 with back in the early 2000s, I don't remember exactly what years it would have been, but I'm going to say 4, 5, 6-ish. Um, I found through Meetup, and they had a Yahoo email group. Um, from that, actually, the group where you and I met was kind of the next significant amount of play I did, and I
Sorry.
found that literally through Facebook, and then I created a group, and that was kind of how we attracted, some fill-in people, along with, like, I think in your case, you knew the one person, and they were like,
Well,
"Hey,
yeah, I knew the guys that we were playing at his house, and I just didn't realize he was in a D&D game.
mhm,
And so it sort of worked out that when I saw the group, I was like, oh, well, I know this person and I half know these people, because there were 2 other people at the table that I did sort of know through acquaintances.
mhm."
Um, and so that sort of is how that ended up working out. But yeah, just it's weird now finding players in person. Uh,
And then my Earth Dawn game,
yeah.
which meets at a local, like, kind of brew house, tap room type place. Um, I actually found, now, mind you, I live literally maybe a mile and a half from this place.
Hmm.
Or maybe it's 2.5. I don't know, but it's very, very close to my house. And but I ended up finding that on one of the local gaming discords.
Okay. That's one thing I'm not. Might need your assistance with because I'm not in any of the local gaming discords.
Yeah, I don't remember
Um,
if it was the Westmoreland one or Steel Tower, but
okay. Well, I was in. I'm trying to use my mouse and my mouse isn't hooked up. I haven't been in Steel Tower in forever. I need to go and be more active over there, I guess. Maybe because that might be the area. Um, because the game's going to be located in Brownsville, which is kind of odd location, but not bad if you're coming from, say, California
yeah,
or
Cal, Washington.
yeah, Washington or Even my way, Uniontown, like that
Yeah.
area, New Stanton wouldn't even be too bad. Bell Vernon, like there's a decent area that isn't too bad to commute to where we would be playing, but I just don't have any clue as to how to canvas for people anymore.
I would honestly start either with assorted local gaming discords, which sometimes you can find. And the thing is, Discord has kind of exploded over that scene, but also Facebook. I feel like those you got to find the groups. And what I have
Yeah,
discovered is a lot of local game shops have a group.
right. But they don't want you sniping players
I
to the most
mean,
part.
yes, no. I mean, it, yeah. Well, but the other thing is, and I know this isn't ideally to what you want to do in the end, but they those shops also work great as a meetup to kind of screen it so everybody can screen everybody.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's definitely something that I'm sort of open to the idea of, and have sort of been looking for a local game shop that I could check out that might work. Um, the game shop we were playing at, that spot is unfortunately just not the vibe anymore. I have no ill will towards the owner of that store, and there's no issues with that place. It's just not a very indicative store for tabletop RPGs,
Hmm.
and that's just the truth. So maybe I will start looking to see if I can find, like, I don't know if there's any game stores in like California area or Washington. I'm sure there's got to be a game store in Washington of some kind. And maybe I'll just start canvassing there and hanging out and looking for players.
Um, Drawbridge might be a place to look.
Okay.
They're more South Hills, but
I
and for
mean,
those of you, we're talking geographic areas around Pittsburgh, but
Pittsburgh.
um, I think he's in Bridgeville, but that's more that way.
Yeah, I don't think Bridgeville's too far, all things considered. Um, but yeah, I've been sort of racking my brain and being like, what do I do? What do I do in this situation? And I think you might be right, and I think you might be onto something with especially the Discords. Um, I don't, and everybody that's in our Discord knows this. Sorry, I don't interact with Discord well. I don't know what it is about me and Discord, but Discord does not. It fills me with anxiety and dread, and there's too much information happening at Discord at all times.
Oh, geez, you would hate my Discord feed. I'm in
Oh
like
yeah, I can't.
40, 50 channels. Not channels, servers.
Right. At work, we use Teams with a bunch of group chats.
Mhm.
And that drives me crazy some days, because it's like I just want everybody to shut up for 2 seconds, cuz I can't even think to read what's happening right now. And that's where I get with Discord is I get ding 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 ding, and I can't read and stay on top of what, and I lose track of the conversation and I'm just out.
Yeah. I have found I have a lot of servers with the vast majority of notifications turned off.
Yeah. I,
Um,
I get our notifications. I do see what gets posted in our Discord, but I just don't interact with it because I don't find the app a pleasurable experience, unfortunately.
no, that's fair. Um,
And I think it's a great tool. I'm not, saying that, oh, I hate Discord. No, I think it's a great tool. For me personally, I just don't like using it. But tomato, tomato.
well, no, I mean, it's perfectly valid, right? Like, not everybody, like, Discord jives with me, but, I go back to the old frickin', Unix-based BBSs. So, my what I'm comfortable with and whatever, I mean, it's just different.
Right. Yeah, no, I understand. Um, I come from a like I'm just from a me and you are from very different eras of the internet.
Oh,
So like
very much.
my message board experience is usually it's troubleshooting. Anytime I'm reading message boards, it's always like, I'm having this problem. How do I fix it?
Mhm.
So it's a lot of Stack Overflow. It's a lot of, I remember the Yahoo Messenger boards and all of that stuff. And B, I'm just not used to the, it's like a group chat, but I don't know. It's just so much different. And I don't
No,
know.
that's fair.
I am also one of those people that I despise group chats in general. You get more than two people in a conversation. You get more than, I'll say, three people in a conversation, and I'm like, okay, I hate this. Thank you. um, and I just how I am. I can't stand group chats. Drive me crazy because somebody always has something. But that's just the truth for me.
Yeah, hey.
But yeah, I definitely think the Discord idea and going about looking at Discords is a good idea. I definitely think I'm going to look in to see if I can find some local game stores in the area that I could um, either use as neutral meeting points or just try and hang out and find out who's playing, what are they people buying. I can use that information.
There's that. I will say now, the crew that I play Earth Dawn with, which is at the Sobel's Sobel's
Hmm.
Obscure Brewing Company, where the Worm Brew event was held the same weekend as PGX.
How is
They,
that beer?
uh, it is very good.
Is
I
it?
had one the last time we played, and
Do they
oh
still
my
have it?
god, they did the last time we played, but that was they had it they had it on tap.
Okay.
Um, that was like 2 weeks after the Worm Brew event.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't know if they have some in like I didn't go asking like if they had any because obviously I know they put it in cans,
Right.
but I know the brewer made a new batch but was it a smoked cherry stout? It was
I
really freaking good.
That sounds amazing. Um, that sounds amazing. I am so excited for that. I would like to try that at some point. I might have to make a trip to
Um,
Sobel's just to see if I could get my hands on it.
but they do a tabletop gaming day. I think it's usually the last Sunday of the month. I'd have to
Okay.
check. They have a Discord. I could invite you over to that. But they do, a meetup. But there are so the group that I play Earth Dawn with are all part of that, but we don't meet there for Earth Dawn on the gaming day weekend. We meet there on a different day.
Different weekend. Right. Yeah.
Right, and there are other game groups that meet there, like subgroups from that. So what
Okay.
I'm saying
Yeah.
is if you can find something like that, because I know, you're 45 minutes to an hour from where I'm at.
Well, yeah.
Um, but, like, if you can find some sort of place where there's, like, a local club that meets up, you might find some interest there, like, because let's be honest, we're always looking for more games, all of us are.
Oh, yeah.
It's just a
Yeah,
matter of
definitely.
can you fit them in? So I think a lot of times it's more finding of players that have available time than finding willing players most of the time.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I'm certain of that as well. And I'm hitting this point where I'm looking at my personal schedule and going, okay, I can play this day after these hours, and anything else is kind of for me.
No, I understand completely, like especially since I've gone to an afternoon shift at work. But I worked such an early daylight before that drastically cut into any availability to game most of the week anyway. So,
Yeah, yeah, I feel that. I understand where you were coming from back in the day when you were like, I gotta be in bed by like 10 o'clock.
well,
Um, and I'm in the same, I am like, I'm turning into my father, where if I'm not in bed by 11, I am gonna be miserable tomorrow. And it's gonna be everybody else's problem. Uh, But yeah, and that's where I'm at is just like, okay, so I can play on Thursdays after 6 p.m. Um, and we can play from like 6 to 10:30 and be done. Um, it's just it's just weird. It's so weird to be back to looking for players. I don't know how else to put it.
like I said, and I completely understand where you're at, because playing in person is, for me, it's a preferable experience. I'll take an online game over no game, or
Right.
sometimes if I want to play a more obscure title, I'll go online because I know it's going to be easier to find people to play it.
Yes, exactly.
Um, but yeah, I have found though, like this crew that I found over here at this local place, there's a Pathfinder game going. There's We're playing Earth Dawn. There's a Blades in the Dark game going. Like they tend to play some less common games, which is cool.
That is cool. That is definitely exciting. Um, yeah, I am the, the thing that's keeping me tied to the in-person game is that, like I said, I already have two players.
Hmm.
I already have two players that are willing, and I know how they play, and I know that I have fun when they play. You know what I mean? Like I have two players that I already mesh with. I just need to find at minimum two more,
Hmm.
at maximum six more.
I mean,
Like
it's not that I wouldn't be interested, but given my
no,
schedule
I
and your schedule and locations, it ain't happening.
no, I know. Trust me. And I'm not I mean no disrespect by not asking you to play, but I just know that we have a hard
None
enough time
taken.
doing the podcast, right? So,
Right? I have witnessed the last how long?
2 months almost. Um Unfortunately, but that has just been, talk about say la vie, it is such as life.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I don't know. And it's wild because I do know that, like, yeah, if I really wanted to, I could go online and I could find a game tomorrow and I could be happy and I could be playing and whatever. But I don't know. I'm really digging on playing in person again, and it's nice to be back to that. And I feel like I miss college in a way, right? Like I'm and you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. In college, it was so easy to be like,
I was in like
"Hey,
7 campaigns at once in college.
oh yeah. Oh yeah. I shit you not, I was running like 3 campaigns
Mhm.
actively. And those weren't like, oh, I'm running, 3 campaigns and it's, 2 of the same and 1 different. No, it was 3 very different campaigns with 3 groups of very different people.
Mhm.
And they were all heavily involved campaigns where it was like, okay, we have lots of moving pieces here, right? Like
Mhm.
um, so yeah, I trust me, I know the feeling of like, oh well, yeah, I could do like 6 campaigns in a, yeah, I feel that because we bounced around and did all kinds of stuff, and it was so easy for me to be like, hey, new guy in the rec room, do you play D&D? No, all right, cool, right? Like,
Right, but you know what though? I will say something I didn't mention before. Uh, Facebook groups, but like even like Facebook Marketplace, you'll see postings for. Look, it's the fact of our modern life is a lot of people just browse that for whatever reason. Are you going to get hits? I don't know, but I know the worst that can happen is you take 3 minutes to put up a post. You spent 3 minutes and you're still in the same spot you were before you spent those 3 minutes looking at reels.
right, yeah, I
You
understand.
know,
Um,
it's a weird lesson I learned as the pseudo producer of this show, I guess, in a sense, is that if I don't ask somebody to be if I ask someone to be to come on as a guest and they say no, I'm in the exact same spot as I would be if I didn't ask them.
oh yeah, I agree with that. Um, yeah, that's a good point, and I might, yeah, that's a good point. I might take you. I don't know about I mean, okay, I do know a little bit about the Facebook Marketplace thing because we used to post up on Craigslist and be
Well, but
like looking for players. You know what I mean?
right, there's that. There's also, like, I know there's a bunch of those kind of regionals, like, sell want trade groups.
Right? Yeah, I guess.
Like I know
Yeah, I never.
there's a couple for specific areas around where I live. I would assume there are down towards you as well.
There are, yeah. I never thought about using one of those to be like, hey,
I mean, what's the worst? You get the post deleted and the admins go, "Please don't do that again."
All right,
Okay.
cool. Yeah.
You know, like, as long as you weren't, like, graphic about it, I don't think you'll get a Facebook ban or anything,
Well,
especially not the first time.
yeah, yeah, and I'm not, I'm not graphic about
Right.
anything really.
No, that's I mean, I know you're not going to be. I'm saying for just people in particular, like,
Well, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
it's weird to say go online to find an in-person game, but in reality, aside from spending a lot of time that you probably don't have just hanging out at a game shop, what else, you know, or
What else
word of
can you
mouth.
really do? Yeah, I feel that too. I definitely want to try. That might be not a terrible option. Like you said, to uh, post in the sell trade wants, or post in, like you said, game store groups, and just sort of ask around and be like, hey, anybody looking for a player, or anybody looking for player, or no.
Look, I'm
Um,
looking for players.
I'm looking for players. Is anybody looking to play?
This
That
could be
was the
part of
word.
your problem, Steve. You keep
Right.
telling people that you wanna be what you want.
Well, that is also true. Simultaneously, if I could find, so I have no problem being the forever DM to a point. Uh, if I can find somebody who is willing to DM, fantastic. Let me know when you want to do it, because I'm willing to play. I
Mhm.
have always been that way. I can run games, and that's not a problem at all. I don't mind running games, and people tell me I'm good at it. I don't know how good at it I am. Um, because I'm my own worst enemy. But I very much would like to find people that can also run games and just be like, "Hey, by the way, do you want to run this week, or do you want to play something that we haven't, you know?"
Y So, just kind of rabbit trail a little bit here.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm. Mhm. I don't
you
mind
know what
chasing some
actually has
rabbits.
helped my GMing confidence as much as anything else?
What's that?
Convention GMing.
Yeah, I agree with you. I've definitely had a good time at every convention, and it seems like my players have a good time when I run stuff. I will never I'll just be completely honest. I don't think I'll ever have the self-confidence to be like, "Oh yeah, I'm a, I'll never, I just don't have that about me. That's just not who."
Well, you know me well enough to know I'm hypercritical of myself and all that. But specific to now both Gamer Nation Con and PGX,
Mhm.
I have had people who only know me either via the podcast or by having played with me at said those conventions come play with me again,
Right. Yeah. No,
which
and yeah, that's
I it's like, okay, well, you know what? They're signing up to play again. I must be doing something right.
I
Like,
I
I actually
yeah.
ran Havoc Brigade for the same home group this year at PGX that I did last year, which there were
Yeah,
some
that
other
was wild.
circumstances. That was kind of impromptu, actually. But, you know,
Yeah, because that was Friday night.
kind of, yeah. Well, no, it was
Yeah.
supposed to be Friday night and no one signed up. And so Saturday morning, I'm at the
Oh,
table
okay.
and they're looking for a table that'll take like 8. Like, well,
Mm,
I said, and I just happened to recognize them. I'm like, hey, I said, just throwing this out there. If you want, I said, I
I
can
have
run what you played with me last year. They're like,
just in it.
okay. And like, so that, like I said, and Gamer Nation Con is where it really hit is, went back down there the second time last year and I had people sign up to play with me again.
Right.
And that was really like, I'm not saying it made me get all but it was kind of one of those where I had to look at that and go, okay, you can not listen to those thoughts as much.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I get it. A confidence boost is always a welcome confidence boost. And yeah, like I said, I feel like sometimes I'm just my own worst critic. I do it with everything. I'm hard on myself about the gaming that I do. I'm hard on myself about the soap that I make. Like I'm hard on myself. That's all there is to it.
Oh,
I've
I
always
get that.
been. So yeah, I welcome a confidence boost like that as well. And I'm not. I just try not to. I try to stay humble, a lot of ways, um, but yeah, I'm excited and wanted to bounce some ideas, and I think we've pointed out some pretty solid options as far as finding players in person and ideas for where to start looking for players in person. Because and I imagine, and I can't speak to this with any confidence, but if I'm finding useful information in this, I'm sure somebody out there might find something
Well, the other thing
informational.
too is right. Some of these directions that I'm saying to go look in, you may not find players directly, but we'll say you like okay. So the way I found that group I used to play 3-5 with, I actually put a post up on EN World,
Mm-mm.
the EN World message board.
Yeah,
Someone pointed me to something else, and ended up following a chain. But what I'm saying, even if you don't find players, you may, someone says, you post on a Discord, they say, oh, there's a group that meets at, Sobel's Obscure Brewing once a month,
yeah,
or whatever the game store,
yeah.
maybe they meet in their
Whatever
church
it may be.
basement. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
But you may find indirect leads that, and because in a sense, gaming is networking.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
There's my
Absolutely.
nugget of wisdom, right?
Absolutely. Well, on that nugget of wisdom, I think we get to do something that I haven't gotten to participate in a long time. That is game of the week.
Woohoo! Game of the week.
Game of the week. Game of the week.
So I have one here.
All right.
I can give me 2.5 seconds to drop a linky link.
Okay.
And it is a very interesting game that I just noticed just dropped the 7th. So that would have been, as we record this, Wednesday,
A couple days ago, yeah.
a couple days ago. It's called Watch Dogs of Kilcade.
Okay.
So it's a supers game in a way. They aren't necessarily supers, but their abilities are beyond ordinary.
Mm-hmm.
They go do watch in their neighborhoods and go after bad guys. It says some of them may be a bit too energetically, which means that they break the law, but laws are ridiculous. I love this is it's very British in a sense. I don't want to say it to be, disrespectful. But it seems like a really interesting game.
It feels very street level, almost supers, but in like a Daredevil, gritty Batman, Punisher way, not.
This game feels like it could exist in the Mutant City Blues universe in a
Mm-hmm.
way, in that like this could be a street level, instead of cops, you are like just street level enforcers.
Vigilantes.
Yeah. And
Alternately, what could be fun to
I
do with
think
this,
go ahead.
have a game of this going simultaneously with a game of like Mutant City Blues, playing both sides
Yeah.
of the story.
Yeah, you could have I think that would be fun to do with
Because the
my
supers,
theory
for
to
the
do
most,
that would be right.
go
My
ahead.
theory to do that, and just to pitch a elevator pitch idea, it'd be to have two small groups. You have maybe 8 players in total. So a group of 4 and a group of 4. 4 cops, 4 vigilantes. The vigilantes dictate what the cops chase after.
Mm-hmm.
So say you have a group that meets on Mondays and a group that meets on Thursdays. Mondays is the vigilante group. They're going to go and do what they got to do to take care of the bad guys. Thursday is the cops group, and they got to try and figure out and stay a couple steps. They're trying to play catch up, essentially, like
Yeah.
cops often do.
Yeah. No, I
Um,
mean, that would be a little tough. Actually, that would actually be kind of a fun thing to try and do in like a 2-table con game.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that would be cool. Yeah, I don't know how long sustained you could do that, but definitely doing like a one shot or a couple shot um would be fun of that. But yeah, I saw this, and like I said, me, and I'm a sucker for stuff that's just come out, and I saw it and I was like, that's a really cool concept. I really like the idea, and yeah, I'm all about that. So,
Yeah, no, that looks very interesting.
Watchdogs of Kilcade.
Yep. All right. Well, I have one as well that's, well, not quite as new as yours, but in a sense it's newer because the actual game isn't even out yet. So this is something called the Cosmere RPG, which is this is the beta rules preview. It's up on drive-through. It's legitimately free, and this is a game set in Brandon Sanderson's Stormlight Archive world, which I have not read those books because my fiction reading has been crap the last few years. But
No, but I've heard various good things from people.
I have read, I think, at least some of the stuff that he kind of like when he took over for Jordan at the end there. I think I've read a couple of his, the ones where he kind of, what do you want to say, continued it on, where because he finished out the Wheel of Time for him.
Right.
But I mean, the art looks cool. There's like a little zine that's coming out with like supplemental material already. There's an adventure up. So it looks like it's got significant support. Like I said, if that's a series you read and you liked, I mean, at this point, like I said, the beta's free, so
Yeah. What's it
why
hurt to
not?
try it? Yeah. Um, Absolutely. Yeah, that's very cool. Very, very cool.
Like I said, that's called the Cosmere role playing game. Of course, like always, we'll link it in the
Down in the
show
show
notes
notes.
description
Yep.
down below,
Doobly-doo.
whatever the doobly doos. Yeah, right.
The doobly-doo.
Yep.
But yeah, very cool. Well, and as mentioned, everything will be linked down in the doobly-doo. Discord, Patreon. Yeah, that's about the only ones that you really need to know about.
Yeah.
Anywhere, you can find us anywhere podcasts are found. For the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Although if you keep podcasts in your sock drawer, we may not be there unless you already put us there.
You'd be surprised. All you got to do is have like an Echo device in there. I think I can yell at my Alexa to play us. I'm not 100% sure. I thought we enabled that ability.
I think, well, you were telling me at one point that if you had a Samsung smart fridge, you could play the podcast on your fridge.
Yes, I do know that much. Because at the very least, you get Spotify on your Samsung smart fridge.
I know we're on Spotify.
Well, yeah, exactly. But as always, links to everything are in the show notes. We want to thank everyone for listening this week. It feels really good to be back, and I hope to be on, many, many more episodes to come because life's been a little weird for me recently, but it's finally becoming more normal. But as always, we want to remind everyone. Oh my goodness, I can't talk.
Why is there a chicken on your shoulder?
Chicken on my shoulder.
I was, never mind. Making fun of you about things being normal.
Oh, yeah. But as always, I want to remind everyone to be kind to one another and get out there and play some RPGs.
Yep. Take care, y'all.
Intro and outro music by the band 12 Noon. You can email us at meandsteverpg@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter and RPGs. Find us on Facebook at Me and Steve RPG Podcast, on Discord at Me and Steve RPGs, and as always, all of these links are in the show notes. Thank you, and be kind to one another.
How much for the cigar?
Cigar, $20, dog. You gotta go down the street to the store and buy that.